Hello, and welcome to episode 102 of Elves, Rings, and Nerdy Things. We are pushing through and catching up for Legend of Vox Machina Season 3. Today we're talking about Season 2. But before we get to that, let's do the little pleasantries. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. You said pushing through. I think we're breezing through. It's a relatively enjoyable, easy to cover topic. It's not as dense as other things we've covered, but it's
I guess
enjoyable.
I think I said pushing through as in we're like trying to catch up since
Oh, yeah,
Season 3
okay.
is already out. I meant no disparaging. There was no disparaging intent in my word choice just then.
Then I withdraw my objection, counselor.
Today, yeah, again, like we're just talking about, the season has already been completely released. So if you don't want anything spoiled, this is definitely a spoiler warning. You
Oh,
should
yeah.
have had ample time to watch the entire series. So if you haven't watched it yet, then pause and watch it and then talk to us as we cover this season. So, Sam, why don't you just read us the episode recap for episode 3,
You got it.
season 3, Legend of Vox Machina.
This is episode titled Prisoners of Ank'Harel. Percy is kidnapped by Ripley and Orthax, who wishes to mass produce firearms. Ripley tries to convince Percy to help, as it will allow the oppressed to liberate themselves. Percy instead attempts to kill Ripley with a sabotaged battery. As Vox Machina trace Ripley, they are confronted by the guard who believe they stole the vestige and killed its owner. Gilmore is captured when he tries to buy the group time to escape. They manage to save Percy, but fail to capture Ripley and are instead apprehended. The group is brought before Emprix Jaman Saord, ruler of Ank'Harel, who dismisses their claim of innocence until Percy takes the blame, whereupon he is sentenced to transformation and the rest to banishment. Scanlan reunites with Kaylee, who tries to drink away his anxieties, only to become intoxicated and embarrass himself. Colliding into his friends, who are being banished, Scanlan rushes to Jamon to prove Vox Machina's innocence by using Mythcarver to reveal Ripley as the true culprit. When Jamon learns of the group's true intentions, they confide that the vestige was a fake. The real Dawn Martyr is with a collector located in the hells of Despath. All right, Sean, what'd you think of this episode?
It was another setup episode for
Mm-hmm.
episode 3 and the things we're about to get. I think this episode is kind of broken down into 3 phases. You have the majority of the party, you have Scanlan, and then for me, it's the Ripley Percy interaction. So those kind of
Mm-hmm.
the 3 things I would like to discuss. First is I like a villain with an understandable rationale.
Oh, totally. Yeah, she's just a Second Amendment proponent,
Yeah. Well, I
right?
mean, not even that. That's I think that's taking a little bit too far. For me, it's you live in a fantasy world where people openly practice magic. You even like something like archery. That's a skill. A gun, and I think this is Ripley's point, any farmer with a gun can just point and
Mm-hmm.
shoot and defend
Well,
themselves.
and I think Taldore is a little bit more progressive in its governance structure than most medieval realms. So most people would live in some sort of monarchy, autocracy. We don't have a bunch of representative democracies. Even Taldore isn't a representative democracy when the sovereign decided to step down right before the Chroma Conclave attacked. So this would be a way to give power to the people. So yeah, it is a understandable motivation.
Yeah. So I just appreciate that. And then what else did I think about this episode? We mentioned last episode how it's kind of ridiculous that Percy just opens fire in a market. And then there's this episode, there's consequences for that. I did write because they kind of get accused for a murder which they didn't commit. I think we can assume that nobody was killed in Percy's market shooting, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in trouble for what he did.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think they show Pike trying to heal or like healing one person that was shot, but there's got to be some sort of at least civil action
Yeah.
taken. I mean, that's a plain and simple case. But he could always get Burt Reynolds, Esquire.
Mm-hmm. But I did love. Gilmore had a business, what would be the term? Not enemy,
Arrival.
a rival
Yeah.
whose instead of Gilmore's glorious goods, it was Shoebed's sensational sundries.
Yeah, I
So I
like
thought
that.
that was just a funny little side note to the story. But yeah, I mean, I really not a whole lot to say, not a whole lot happened.
I'm going through some of my notes here. We have some fun little moments here. I think the cops and robbers thing with Grog, that was a lot of fun.
Oh,
Uh
playing with the kids.
Playing with the kids and playing detective. That was
Hmm.
Grog is one of the most just straight enjoyable characters, right? I'm trying to recall, where did we leave things with Craven Edge? I don't even remember.
I don't either. Did they just put it in the bag of holding, or did they melt it? I
Did he
think they may have thrown it into the acid.
maybe? Yeah, maybe.
Something.
Because he
It's
knew it
gone
was
though.
evil and did he hurt Pike with it? Yeah, they might have I think they shifted around what they did with Craven Edge because it was more of a thing. It was more relevant. Either way, so we don't get that drama with Grog, but we get these really fun interactions that he has, and some of that is just it's a good way to lighten things up when you've got you know torture and forced transformation and everything else. So those are good comedy bits.
Yeah, as the rest of the party is inside kind of investigating this murder, you have Grog
Playing
pretending
with
to be
kids.
shot with a bunch of kids, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a couple kids out in the alley, yeah.
I'll say one thing I didn't like as much was some of the Scanlan and Kaylee stuff. It just took too long, I thought. And I guess they wanted the drama of having Scanlan come and save the day when they have their confrontation with Jaman Saord. So I get it, but I think those scenes are I've talked before about my feelings regarding the whole Kaylee thing, but whatever. It is what it is at this point.
And I think for me it's less it took too much time. I just really, really liked how drawn out that whole storyline was in the campaign.
The Kaylee stuff?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Scanlan and the drug addiction. I thought it was like really, really deep and good character development
Mm-hmm.
that and I like we've talked in so many other episodes that you kind of have to adjust storylines and plots to have the 130 episode campaign fit a 30-minute series. But there are some things you're going to lose. And one of those things that I think we're losing is the amazing character development that Sam put into Scanlan. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think it could also just be a bad taste in your mouth from that too.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see where it goes. The door is still open to all of the really juicy stuff that happens over during the Chroma Conclave arc with Scanlan in particular. I just don't know if they're going to do the Terry and Darrington stuff because it seems like I think they might be setting us up to skip the Terry on Darrington stuff. We'll
I
see.
hope I hope they give us Terry and
I
Darrington. That
mean, I
was
mean, me
amazing.
too. Me too. It's just that I think we'll get to it when we finish the this season. We'll see where this season ends and if it's pointing us in the direction of continuing with the main plot and the big villains from the live play, or if we're going to get because to me Terrion was always kind of an intermission to the epic story of Vox Machina, right? Because people are kind of doing their side quests, right? That's how some of those relationships develop. You've got people gaining levels in different classes. You've got don't they start like a bakery in Whitestone,
Mhm.
right? Like there's fun stuff going on there, and then it's like, oh, wait a second, let's go deal with this world threat. But either way, that's at the end of the season into next seasons. We'll get there when we do. What else about this episode do you want to talk about, Sean?
Just the fact that Jaman Saord, who is the Empress of Ank'Harel, non-binary leader of this area, we discover at the very end of the episode that the item stolen by Ripley was in fact a forgery. And Juman Sword informs Vox Machina that they're going to have to go to the Hells to uncover the plate of the Dawnfather, which or Dawn Martyr. I'm very, very excited
Hmm.
for that. I think that's going to be very cool. One of the things I love about an animated series is that they can show you much more diverse and different settings than you can get in a live action.
Hmm.
So I mean, I've already seen it, but I'm excited to talk about how that progresses and the things we see and the characters' choices and all of that that they choose to go through
Yeah.
once they get to the hells. That'll be exciting.
The Hells in the live play were a pretty intense experience for them. But going back to Jamansa Ord, I thought that they were really accurately depicted from my imagination during the live play. Just really kind of otherworldly, beautiful, obviously kind of a, non-binary,
Their
genderless
eyes.
character, their eyes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess this is where we already said spoiler alert, but in the live play, Jamansa Ord is actually a dragon. I think either a bronze or a brass dragon in disguise.
Ancient brass.
Ancient brass dragon. They become a very powerful ally of Vox Machina.
Yes.
And my question before we started recording was, shouldn't Vex's dragon sense have triggered? We saw it happen with General Krieg when he was in disguise. As again, he was a blue dragon. She got a case of dragon sense headache right before the Chroma Conclave attacked, and you had a theory about that.
Yeah, my only idea or theory is that her headaches are results of chromatic dragons. So the evil dragons, because Jaman Sotward is technically a brass dragon, I don't think it has an effect on her. That might explain why it doesn't have an effect on Vex. It's a very cool concept. Jaman Sotward being an ancient brass dragon, who knows how long they've been in control and ruling Ank'Harel. Feasibly, it could be like thousands of years that
I
this.
I seem to recall that was
It's at
kind of
least it's at least hundreds of
yeah,
years.
it's much longer than anybody's living memory, any human's living memory. I
Mm-hmm.
remember them being portrayed as this kind of mythical, even like founder figure in the
Mm-hmm.
culture of Ank'Harel, which is yeah, just a really cool idea. That's one of my favorite things about the dragons in Dungeons and Dragons and other fantasy stuff is the shape changing. Like
Mm-hmm.
when they take on a human form. I think, in our original D&D campaign, the one that I DM'd, I had that going.
I don't know
You'll
if we ever discovered
you'll
that.
all didn't necessarily discover all of it, which,
Yeah.
I guess spoiler alert for a D&D campaign from 7 years ago. But it's something too you see in like World of Warcraft, I think has some pretty prominent dragons that masquerade as humans and further along big plots. So it's just a fun mechanism, and it's also fun too when you get the good aligned dragons because they are such a powerful entity, but they also, they don't necessarily want to expose themselves and go and handle every single threat.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of sets up. One of the notes that I did have was that the throne room confrontation was slightly different from the live play. Like I remember the live play, Jamansa Ord basically made them prove their abilities by fighting some of their protectors, some of these golems. And here it's more like a trial slash capital punishment in a certain sense.
Mm-hmm. Or it would have been had Percy not taken the blame,
Hmm.
even though he was innocent.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, that was a cool. The punishment for Percy was going to be being turned into one of those kind of looked like a stone golem,
Yeah, I was gonna
kind
say
of.
what do you think those are? Because it's like stone, but like also flesh, like some sort of like
Yeah,
golem centered flesh to stone spell or something.
yeah. My guess was like it looked like stone because the moment that they take the so for people who haven't seen it, Jamansa Ord is going to put like this magical crown looking thing on top of Percy's head, and that was slowly transforming him into this stone golem. When they took the crown off of Percy's head, all of the different things that were building up on Percy's face kind of fell away like dirt.
Mm,
So to me, it looked like stone or earth or something like that,
by
or
that.
clay, like a clay
Yeah,
golem,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, yeah.
But they also look, before that happened, they just kind of looked like large beings, like fleshy
Yeah, they're just like wearing a
beings. I
weird
don't know.
helmet or something.
Yeah,
You didn't get it.
strange.
It's kind of like a
But yeah,
juggernaut. like
Hmm.
from X-Men.
Yeah. But Scanlan does save the day, uses Mythcarver to scry, it looks
Which
like.
I also had a note. Does Myth Carver scry in either the live play or in the like companion books as a magical item?
I don't remember if it does, but they've definitely shown that it does in the show.
Yeah.
So this is something that Mythcarver has done. But then it was cool too because they Jamansa Ord, when everything is kind of settled and they believe Vox Machina, they say that they are like a student or a scholar of the vestiges of divergence. So
Mm,
it was very cool. I mean, yeah, if you're thousands of years old and you're an ancient brass
yeah.
dragon,
You
why
should
wouldn't
know
you?
those. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, they
absolutely.
probably didn't even need to study them. They probably just knew of their
Hmm.
existence
They hang out
firsthand.
with what the
Pervon,
sphinxes. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, Pervon.
Pervon.
Yeah, they hung out with Pervon. They knew Pervon.
They knew Pervon.
They were on a first name basis with Pervon.
Yeah, so good episode overall. I mean, this whole show, every episode, I don't think there's one I've disliked. And
Yeah,
I'm just such a simp for the content and material, source material, that I don't think they could have given me a bad show, but very intrigued at to the direction of the show and very excited for us to be able to talk about the upcoming episodes, especially once we get to the Hells. I think that's going to be really fun.
I
The
agree.
city of Dis. It'll be
Yeah,
cool.
totally. Anytime you do plane jumping, it's always fun because it's such like a watershed thing for D&D players. The first time you go to a new plane, and the Hells is you know, it's a tough one. You got to be, you're going to face some pretty intense encounters, at least in the live play they did. Things kind of went south that whenever Vox Machina went to the Hells, and they needed some pretty big rolls and gutsy moves to get out of it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that adapted into the anime. But even before we get there, the next episode, there's some pretty fun stuff to talk about here.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned for that. I guess the only other thing is, man, I've dipped back into Hogwarts Legacy. Did we talk about
Mm.
this last episode? Maybe. I can't
We
remember.
we may have.
May have. It's fun. It is flying around on a broom, taming a hippogriff, capturing magical beasts and breeding them,
I
making potions.
am intrigued because they just started talking about the sequel
Yes,
to
yes.
Hogwarts Legacy, which would be fun. Carly and I started playing Baldur's Gate 3 together because
Ooh,
they opened up a multiplayer function.
that's awesome.
So it's like playing virtual D&D with your partner.
Wait, how does
So
that work? Because you
same
play on
screen
PS5, right?
on Xbox
Xbox?
Series X. Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
you basically just so you have your account, then you have the guest account Carly logs into, and then we both created our own characters and you play the game. Whenever there's like cut scenes and there's an interaction, like a dialogue, if Carly initiates the dialogue, I can still run around and do things. But if I want to participate in the dialogue and just watch, so it's all on one screen, I can go up to her character and click on her in the game, and then the full screen will appear of the entire dialogue. But
That's pretty awesome.
I know it's pretty great. So you're not,
I've never heard that being a function, or you can have characters opt out and then opt into cutscenes.
yeah, it's pretty fun.
What classes are you playing?
She's a druid. I'm a paladin.
Oh, that's a pretty good combo.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And then we go
very
through
powerful.
our followers, and I think we have Gale. So we have a magician, wizard, and then Shadow Hearts. We can keep getting that guidance bonus on like every roll.
I mean, you got to have
Yep.
Shadowheart. She's so central to the plot too. Do you know my Gale story?
Is it similar to mine where you didn't know he existed
No,
until
well, no,
Act Two?
that was great, but no, I think, and maybe I shared it on the podcast when we talked about Baldur's Gate 3, but no, I refused to give him any magic items, and he left.
Oh, he just pieced
He
out.
just pieced out. He's like, I gotta go. I'm gonna die if I don't get a magic item. I was like, cool. I'm not giving you anything because at that, early on in the game,
You're young.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is how I am too. It's like I'm gonna hold on to items and you know like, oh, maybe that one, maybe that one. I don't play a lot of I'm not gonna go out and like Google like best in slot, right? That stuff. I'll just play with what I think is fun. and that meant not giving Gail any.
Well, next time Carly and I do it, I'll try to either record it or FaceTime you so you can see what it looks like. But it's pretty fun. I think maybe you and Haley would enjoy it if you could play it on like a Xbox, PlayStation,
Yeah,
however you play it. But
I play on a console, or excuse me, a PC. So
oh god,
yeah, I'm not getting a second gaming PC. But yeah, well,
there's also a
maybe.
chance you and I could play together. I think
I was
because
just
it
thinking,
does.
can
I
you
think
do
it
that?
does cross console. We'll see. We'll look
That
at
would
it.
be cool. I vaguely recall them talking about that functionality, and if they actually did it, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's
Okay,
look at it sometime
cool.
because that could be your D&D fix. I get mine because I still DM, but I feel like it'd be good for you to play
Yeah,
with other people.
I'm also at that point where it's like I got to figure out where do I have time to do all of the things that I would like to do,
Mhm.
right? Because
Life.
I just started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which probably will not be more than 2 days a week. So we'll see.
We'll find time.
Yeah, I agree.
This was episode 102 of Elves, Rings, and Nerdy Things. You can follow us on Facebook. You can find new episodes pretty much everywhere where podcasts are listened to. You can email us, elvesringsnerdythings@gmail.com. If you have any ideas for content you would like us to talk about, feel free to send us a message.
Bye,
That's it.
everybody.
Bye.